Hey guys, today I am going to walk you through the process of what happens after going under contract, whether you are on the seller side or you're a buyer. I'm going to walk you through the basics of the contract so that you can understand all the steps and how it works. I won't go into too much detail, but I am going to walk you guys through what happens after going under contract. Unfortunately, this is kind of where it starts. Whether you're a buyer or a seller, this is when it gets real. So, offer is accepted. This is where both parties have agreed on all terms of the deal. We've agreed on price, timeline, and we've agreed on contingencies like inspections or financing or things like that. So once everything's signed and we submit all the paperwork to the attorneys, the buyer will submit their earnest money. This is a good faith deposit that's held in escrow or held with an attorney. In the state of South Carolina, it's held with an attorney, and that money is held there until closing. And it gets credited back to the buyer in their cash to close. Usually it's done through a wire or an app that is directly used by the attorney. Then there's the due diligence period. So if you're the seller, you've agreed to allow the buyer to do inspections during this time period that was specified. So usually a week, 2 weeks, could be longer. It just depends on the house. If you're the buyer, that is your time to get all of your inspections done. That could be a whole home inspection. That could be a termite inspection, a septic inspection. There are so many different types, but always typically we're doing a general home inspection. This is honestly one of the most important phases of the entire transaction. So once the inspections have happened, if you're a buyer and you see some items on the list and you walk through it with your agent and you say, I want all of these things done, we're going to then go to the seller and request that all these items are done with our supporting documentation of the inspection report or reports. And we're going to hand it to the seller and ask them if they'd be willing to do these repairs. The sellers will then receive that and they will decide whether or not they want to. They do not have to do anything. The only time, no, I'm not going there. Don't want to get too in detail, but there are some things in South Carolina. There are some contingencies that they might have to make said repairs to get to the closing table. But for general inspection purposes, the seller does not have to agree to any of the repairs. They can also say, well, we'll do A, B, and C, but we won't do D, E, F. So then they send that back to the buyer and the buyer can agree or they can counter back. So this is like the second negotiation back and forth here. Usually there's not too much of a back and forth here. We can kind of come up with an idea of what's best for both parties and what will make everyone move forward comfortably. But this is where the real negotiation happens. It could look like repairs, but it could also look like credits. Sometimes there's no change to the situation at all. But the whole goal here is to keep the deal together. The next step is the appraisal process. As the buyer, your lender is probably going to require you to have an appraisal. Once the appraisal is ordered and the appraiser goes out to the house, they are really looking to make sure that this home is of the value that we've agreed to sell it for and you've agreed to buy it for. So this is pretty crucial because if the home doesn't appraise, we're back to the drawing board with negotiations because the seller has the right to say, well, I still want you to pay $400,000, even though the appraisal came in at $390,000. And the buyer also has the right to say, well, I don't qualify for that, so I no longer can purchase this. Again, this is another round of negotiation if necessary. If everyone's doing their job and the home is priced properly and, we've made a good offer price and everyone's agreed on a good price here, we should be fine. But at the same time, this is one of the final steps that gets sent over to the lender and their team in order to get the buyer's loan moving forward and cleared to close. Once all of those things are taken care of, we get ready to prepare for closing. So the closing documents are prepared. A final walkthrough might happen before closing. The buyer might want to see the property one more time. They know the seller's completed all of their obligations that they agreed to. And then we get to closing day. We get to the finish line. We literally walk in, sit there for 30, maybe 45 minutes, sign a bunch of paperwork. The money comes from the buyer and the lender, or maybe sometimes just the buyer, to the seller, and then we exchange keys and we call it a day. The reality of this is getting under contract is one step of the process. If you are interested in buying or selling a home, know that yes, there are a lot of steps here and there's so much that I haven't got into and the details and the contingencies and all of those things. But the right strategy doing this can make or break your experience and honestly your pocket. So if you are interested in moving forward in that direction, my information is all over the place, here, there, below, whatever. Comment, like, subscribe. I don't even know what I'm saying. And reach out to me because I'd be happy to help.